Hello and welcome to this introduction to the ChronosHub branded journal finder. So the journal finder can be either public, as you can see here on this tab, or it can require the users to log in. The journal finder is possible to use for any institution, funder, or publisher. It's just that the scope of the journal finder seen to the number of journals and other aspects like publisher agreements are a little bit different. So if we walk you through here, we'll hopefully be able to clarify all those different concepts. So first of all, if we look at the public journal finder, you see that it includes, for the moment, about 46,000 journals. When this is used for an individual publisher, well, then we only see the number of journals for that specific publisher. So we'll switch here a little bit to an example for a publisher that uses the public journal finder. So this is Bentham Science in this case, and we see that the number of journals here are only 128. We also see on the left-hand side the possibility to customize the filters. So we don't necessarily have to use all these filters. There are also others available. And in the journal finder, you can choose to include all kinds of information, whether that is specific details around each journal title, or as said, the different institutional agreements that you may have as a publisher. If we have a quick look at the journal finder when logged in, you see here an example for Emerald Publishing. And in this case, you see that they have chosen to include just a couple of filters. We have there 373 different journal titles and their journal information in this list here. The advantage with being logged in is that we directly know the organizational affiliation of the user or the author, and we base the publisher or the institutional agreements based on their affiliation in that way. So that can be displayed in various ways. We'll have a look at that soon. And in the journal finder, you don't only have these different filters, but you can also then select a funder and directly see what different journal titles that offer a compliant route or a non-compliant route seen to that specific funder. So you see that through the compliant banner over here. So just in order for you to get a view of an institution or a funder, we have another example here for the Swiss National Science Foundation. So we see again, as this is not limited to a given publisher, we have the 46,000 journals here again, exactly the same as you saw in the example of the public journal finder. Here we have the Swiss National Science Foundation selected by default. You see if they're compliant or not. We can also indicate specific information, whether a journal is gold or hybrid, etc. And we can also display different pieces of information to explain and make it transparent why a journal title is compliant or not compliant. So we can scroll down a little bit and see an example here where we see this journal title is hybrid. So in this case, the funder will not cover the fees because they only pay for gold, but it is compliant. So it's not a problem to get your article published here as an author. And if we click, why is this compliant? We can see that we have essentially three different options. Subscription option, not okay. Green open access is okay, seen to the publishing policy, but the embargo period here is 12 months and SNSF is only allowing 6 months. So that's not okay. But the hybrid open access option is okay, and it's a CC BY 4 license, which also is fine in this case, right? And if we now look at this profile, we see that Jane Doe is associated with the University of Zurich. And we know that University of Zurich belongs to the National Consortium and has opted in to the National Wiley Agreement. So if we filter on Wiley, we see a number of journal titles for Wiley. And we see that for some journals, they are not covered by this agreement. but other journals are. So we can see that the article processing chart is here. For publishing an open access article in this journal by a corresponding author from University of Zurich are covered by an agreement between the publisher and this institution. So even though the funder is not paying this case, we understand as an author that the national agreement is covering our fees. So hopefully by seeing these different examples, you see what is standard, seen to the layout and the structure, and what is customizable, seen to the colors, logos, and the different banners and graphics, as you can see here, for example, including all kinds of text like the agreement text we had a look at previously. The same thing goes for the public journal finder. So the banner image, any text that you see essentially anywhere on the page, including information, of course, on your specific journals, is customizable. So you see there are a lot of similarities here, but it's possible to have a greater variation seen to the graphics, logos, colors, and filters. In addition to just displaying this journal information, the journal finder also offers you the possibility to do direct submissions into the underlying submission systems. So if you want to, you can hence offer as a publisher a submission portal where you can submit into any of your own journals, regardless of the underlying submission system, whether that is ScholarOne, Editorial Manager, eJournal Press, or even integrate with a number of custom-built systems as well. And when we do, if we click the submit button here, that takes us directly to the submission form, which enables us to make a submission really, really quickly, because this just covers all the information we need in terms of structural elements to automate a lot of the checks later on for compliance and for eligibility for paying APCs, for example, or accounting an article for an open access agreement. So we can paste in the title, we select a grant, and by this single click, we associate all the information we need around the grant, their ID, the funder, funder acknowledgements, IDs for the funder, and so forth. So we can automate, for example, reporting back to the funder on behalf of the institution or the author. Same thing with co-authors. We can for an institution, we can find all the co-authors included here because we have the whole staff directory usually integrated and included. So instead of filling in all the details for each author, we just select them from a list like this, and then we may change the roles here and other things. These depend on the underlying submission system. So as you see, it's not much to do other than selecting from lists and filling in a few fields and then uploading your file before you then do the actual submission. And if we save and preview this, we see that we need to fill in some mandatory fields. Once those are filled in, we then submit this directly into the underlying submission system. So just one more here. And then we have an overview of what we've just filled in. And then we can just confirm here. And when we do all of this data sent by ChronosHub into the submission system, which creates that record and will inform the author about the submission and typically also ask the author to complete the submission with more fields that you may require. Right, so hopefully this short introduction gives you an overview of primarily the journal finder and its customization possibilities. Right, thank you very much, and don't hesitate to get back to us with any questions.